Today we have with us Dr. Shashi Bala, Dean, Center for Indology, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, New Delhi. She is going to speak to us today about the cultural linkages between India and China. So, welcome ma'am. Please tell us when and how did the cultural linkages between India and China begin?
Cultural linkages between India and China began before Christ, and there is the first inscription, the written historical document from China that we have is from 67 AD, when two monks, Sanskrit masters, they reached China and they went with scriptures, Sanskrit scriptures, because scriptures play a key role in Indo-Chinese relations. So, we have to talk about it, that it was the first time that Sanskrit texts reached China in the first century, and then they started translating it. Chinese actually knew about India before that, because there was a general, his name is Chang Chien, who was sent with as head of a mission. And when he came to Bactria, he saw that Indian traders were selling Indian goods and also goods from Yunnan and Sichuan provinces coming via India to the markets in Bactria. And there he was, it was the first time that he came to know about Indians, and from then onwards the stories, the history starts of cultural linkages between India and China. So, who were the traders who went from Gandhar and Kashmir to China, and Silk Route played a very important role connecting India and China. Although the journey was very difficult, but it had a number of small kingdoms over there. Some of them I would like to say that Khotan and Kucha and Kizil and Turfan and all these kingdoms, they were known for learning Sanskrit. They had people who were carrying Sanskrit texts from India to these monasteries. So, Chinese came to know about India, and the first monastery that was built for these two monks, whether they were UHEs or they were Indians, they carried Sanskrit texts, and because they carried Sanskrit texts on white horses. So, the first monastery that was built there is called White Horse Monastery. Its Chinese name is Pomasa. Chinese are very specific to give dates and all the important events, giving details. Historically, they are very sound, very clear, and so these such inscriptions tell us about that how Indo-Chinese friendship began. So, later on, some of the these capitals of China like Luoyang and Nanjing and Xi'an, that time Xi'an was called Chang'an. So, they were important centers, and this is how the cultural relations between India and China began.
Does this White Horse Monastery still exist?
Yeah, it still exists, and it celebrates the coming of these two monks. There are two horses, white horses there, and if you remember inauguration of the Olympic Games in China, I do not know how many people noticed it, that there were two white horses carrying fluttering banners from the two sides, and they ran like this and crossed each. So, since then white horses became a symbol of wisdom in China.
And where is it located?
Luoyang.
Luoyang. Okay. So, what was the role of travelers and pilgrims from both sides?
Travelers of pilgrims from both sides. From India, basically the people who traveled, they went abroad for spreading dharma. Many of them were from royal families or from the elite class, you can say. Many were princes, who and many were kings and who abdicated and became monks. For example, Bodhidharma is so well known all over China because he was a monk who took the philosophy of dhyana yoga to China, and it became Chan in China and Song in Korea and Zen in Japan. That plays a key role in not only cultural but also civilizational development of all these countries. So, these monks had the only mission of Indian monks travelling to these unknown lands, very difficult journeys they had to undertake. So, their aim, their mission was to spread dharma. And for the Chinese monks who were coming to India, their aim was to search the authentic original Sanskrit texts, plus they wanted to visit, pay homage to the sacred places. They wanted to walk on the land where Buddha had walked, because they had so much veneration for the Buddha. So, these are the three reasons. But whosoever travelled, whether it was the Indian monks or it was the Chinese monks, they carried Sanskrit texts. The Chinese who were coming to India, they stayed in Indian monasteries, Indian universities like Nalanda, like Taxila. These were the two major monasteries. There were others also, Vikramshila, Udantpuri, etc. There were others also. So, most of the monasteries, unfortunately, the monastic universities, I should say, are all in ruins now, but they used to stay here for years. In Nalanda, there were special arrangements for Chinese monks, Chinese scholars to stay, and they were studying here under Indian masters, and after studying here, after they carried Sanskrit texts with them, and it was a huge task to translate these texts, to understand India, to understand Indian culture, to understand Indian philosophy. And moreover, I would like to point out that when we talk about Buddhist texts, they are not religious texts only. There are texts both on sacred and secular sciences. If there are texts on metallurgy, so there is nothing to do about religion. There are many such texts.
But
so
that's a Buddhist
technology.
text.
These are Buddhist texts, but they are technological texts. If there are texts on poetics, if there are texts on grammar. For example, there are a number of Sanskrit grammatical texts that are translated into Chinese and Tibetan, and many of them are lost in India. The texts on music, dance, drama, so on. So, it was a whole philosophy and also the civilizational development, that there was a shift from tomb culture to temple culture. When Buddhism reached there, they came to know about, they started building huge monasteries, stupas, building these libraries, and special arrangements were made for the scholars to stay together to translate the texts. Because Indians who were travelling to China to spread Buddhism, many of them did not know Chinese, and the Chinese were studying Sanskrit. So, if you know the nature of the two languages, it is almost next to impossible to translate these profound philosophical ideas from Sanskrit to Chinese. So, a number of hundreds and thousands of monks used to sit together and discuss for translating each word to word. They were trying to translate, and they were trying to match the words with the Confucius and the Tao philosophical terms, which was not that successful. That was a little difficult and also not possible. But later on, they started doing recreation of Sanskrit texts. Then it became easy for the Chinese to understand the Indian philosophy, but that could be done only by a master, a teacher, Kumarajiva, who was well versed in all the Hindu scriptures, in all the Buddhist scriptures, who knew Sanskrit very well, and only later on he studied Chinese. So, he could do that because he could go deep into the philosophical texts and recreate the ideas. and translate them into Chinese. Then it becomes easy, and this is why that Kumarajiva is the most popular master all over East Asia. So, these masters were they were carrying the texts, and after translating these texts, different texts were on different philosophies. So, different philosophical texts had an impact on Chinese society, that many sects were developed. So, for example, if we talk about the yoga, so there were many texts on yoga that were translated into Chinese. So, a new sect was developed, that is called Chan sect. Similarly, there are other sects based on other philosophical texts.
Tell us a bit more about Kumarajiva.
Kumarajiva, his father was a Kashmiri Brahmin who became a monk, who was from a family from which people were becoming prime ministers, like in today's terms we can say like prime ministers, but he was he wanted to work for dharma, and he became a monk, and he was traveling towards China. And when he reached Kucha, he was stopped by the king there, because they were in search of a suitable match for the princess, and they could not find anybody more brilliant than his father. His father's name was Kumarayana.
He became a Buddhist monk.
He became a Buddhist monk. He was a Kashmiri Brahmin actually, but he became a Buddhist monk, and he traveled there. He was stopped, and he was forced under pressure. He had to marry the princess. The princess was of Kucha, and her name was Jiva. So, that is why Kumara Jiva, Kumara from his father and Jiva from his mother. So, his mother was a devout Buddhist, and she was a real scholar also of Buddhist philosophy. So, she trained Kumara Jiva from a very tender age. When he was just 6 years, she took her to monasteries, to temples. So, she started teaching her sutras, and then she accompanied him to Kashgar. He even came to Kashmir. Kashgar was a center, according to the biography of Kumarajiva, Kashgar was a center of Vedic learning. So, he came to Kashgar to study the Vedas, and he comes to Kashmir, and he stays in all these places, goes back. By the time he reaches there, he became a monk at the age of around 20, and by the time he goes back to Kucha. Kucha now is in Xinjiang region of China. At the time it was it was a small kingdom on the Silk Road. So, when he went back to Kucha, his fame was spreading all over China, and that he was such a great scholar. So, the Chinese emperor was one of the Chinese emperors. He was so keen to get him that he requested the king of Kucha to send Kumarajiva to him, but he did not agree. Then finally, he sent a military mission to capture Kumarajiva. Kumarajiva was kept in prison for 17 years. He was in prison. Then he finally, when he reaches Xi'an, the modern day Xi'an, that time it was called Chang'an. On his way, his horse died, and he was so much respected that people in that place where his horse died, they made a stupa for even in the honor of the horse. So, when he reaches there in Chang'an, he was given special, all kinds of arrangements were made for him, so that he could live comfortably with work on translation of Sanskrit texts. So, it is according to the biography again of Kumarajiva, there were more than 3,000 monks assisting him in translation. So, he was a great scholar, and because of the smoothness, because of the fluidity, because of the simple, easy to understand translations of Kumarajiva, he is till date he is a renowned personality in all over East Asia. In Japan, it is they have written that there are 75 65,000 temples, Buddhist temples in Japan, and out of them 65,000 are based on the philosophy of the texts which were translated by Kumarajiva. So, he stands out, he outshines among all the Indian scholars, or because he had Indian blood. So, outshines all the scholars who knew Sanskrit, and he translated the texts. From the Chinese side, it is Xuanzang. Xuanzang is called the Prince of Pilgrims. He is called Tripitaka Master in the Chinese tradition. So, he is the most renowned. So, there are two most renowned. There are others also, many renowned scholars. For example, Amuk Vajra, Vajra Bodhi, Kumara Bodhidharma. There are others also, but these two names stand out. Yeah.
So, how did Buddhism influence China?
Buddhism influenced China in almost all the spheres, because before Buddhism reached there, polity was not combined with compassion. There was no power, and combination of power and virtue begins with Buddhist sutras. When Buddhist sutras, for example, Vimalkirti Nirdesha Sutra, when it was translated into Chinese, people liked it, the Chinese liked it so much, because people inside the heart, they were sage within. Inside the heart, they wanted to be sages, they wanted to be good, they wanted to do something virtuous. Because when they got the Buddhism gave them the ideals of compassion, kindness, loving kindness, and all these things, and meditation they came to know about. It was something new for them. They were so much fascinated by the new ideas and the ideals of life. So, when Buddhism reached there, the first thing that you will see physically when you look at the all kinds of visual arts, I would say that before Buddhism they were all constructed tombs, but after Buddhism all their energies were shifted from constructing tombs to constructing monasteries and temples, stupas. If you look at the Buddhist monasteries in China, I do not think any other country has built so many monasteries. There are so many huge cave complexes in China, beautifully decorated with wonderful paintings, with beautiful sculptures. So, the kindness of the Buddhas, the kindness, the compassion of the Bodhisattvas was something so new for them. Decorating the interiors, decorating the dark and dim interiors of the caves went to China for the first time. So, grandeur went with Buddhism, beauty went with Buddhism, virtue went, and the emperors came to realize that emperor, of course, he needs power, he has to be powerful, he has to show his power, but he has to be compassionate also towards the masses. So, just power is not enough for the world. You need compassion, you need love, you need peace, you need harmony, all these concepts. You need transcendence in life. So, when they studied yoga for transcendence in life, it was something amazing for them, that the whole life could be changed. The emperors, the empresses, they were so keen. They appointed many of the Indian teachers, they were appointed as Rajgurus. For example, Kumarajiva, he was taken as a Varbhuti, but later on he was appointed as a Rajguru. So, it was a new concept for them going from India. All sorts of music, dance, all sorts of arts were there, new philosophy went there. So, it has an immense impact on the Chinese lives of the people.
So, apart from Buddhism, what else did the Chinese imbibe from Indian culture?
With Buddhism, all kinds of you can say influences went from India. If we talk about Indian music, the 7 notations of Indian music, they went to China. Drama went. The earliest manuscript of an Indian Sanskrit drama of Ashwaghosha, the name of the drama is Shariputra Prakaran. That manuscript is discovered from China, the manuscript is of the 2nd century. So, these are not there is nothing religious in these texts, but they took all this. A biography of Kalidasa has not been found from India, but from China. Fragments of a drama written by Kalidasa, Abhigyan Shakuntal, are found from
The Chinese translations?
no, it is the original Sanskrit manuscripts, because they used to carry Sanskrit manuscripts and they used to copy there, and not only translation, but copying also.
And biography of Kalidasa, that's also in Sanskrit?
It is in Sanskrit. So, it is amazing for us that so much has such an immense impact is there on the Chinese lives of the people.
What about logic?
Logic, of course. Logic plays a great role in China and also Tibet. Vinay also.
You mean Buddhist logic or the
Buddhist logic. Actually, there is not enough research on Nyaya Vaisheshik and Sankhya, how the philosophy of Sankhya and Vaisheshik, so how the new texts were written on the basis of the philosophy of Nyaya Vaisheshik and Sankhya, etc. There are people working in China, but not much work has been done in India about it.
So, how do present day Chinese look at Indian culture or cultural linkages between India and China?
There are two types of people. One is that they respect India because India was called the Western paradise, and they accept that Buddhism came from India and the light of Buddha came from India. And for example, one of their emperors, Qianlong, he has a huge collection. Recently when I was there, a huge collection of Buddhist sculptures from the Qianlong's collection were on display. A beautiful exhibition was curated by them. So, when they talk about Buddhism, they respect India. And but when there are many misunderstandings also about India. There are many misconceptions also, because during my visits to China, I have been meeting many people who have a number of questions, because they do not understand actually what is India. Chinese say that we go for as tourists to so many countries, but not much to China, but not much to India, because India is a mystic land for them. Those who come, they say we do not understand India, why they spend so much time in worshipping the idols made of stone, why they immerse bones after cremation into the rivers, why they
Ashes.
do ashes, yeah. And there are many questions in the minds of the Chinese people, and about our jati and varna vyavastha and all these things. So, there are many misunderstandings, many misconceptions, and people have to clarify them. People need to have more courses here. Chinese, I have been in touch with many Chinese that okay, we should have some classes specially for you to answer your queries, so that they know, they understand India, they understand the thought of India, understand the soul of India, which many of them do not.
Apart from these courses also, this India-China cultural linkages component is almost completely missing from the Indian history curriculum.
History curriculum, yeah, anywhere in our education system we do not teach these things. So, Indians do not know about it. Just a few lines are there about Hunsang, that Hunsang was a Chinese pilgrim who came to India, but not much is taught about it. There are no researches, very few researches are done in our universities. So, we need to know, understand, explore more about India and China. We are two great nations of Asia, but people to people contact, I think that is not enough. What is happening should be more, and we have to understand each other more. We should have more interactions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.